皆さんおはようございます。ステイトオブプレイ日本をご覧いただきありがとうございます。本日 MC を務めます梶裕貴です。今回はステイトオブプレイの特別編として日本やアジア初のゲームにスポットを当ててお届けします。大人気シリーズの最新作から個性豊かなインディータイトルまで最新情報をたっぷりご紹介します。ドラゴンクエスト7リイマジンドからスタートです。
We made a promise to solve the world's mysteries, didn't we?
I know I'd regret missing out on the fun far more than any bother we might get ourselves into.
I haven't thought about it really. I should try doing all the things that humans do.
To find my own purpose, something only I can do.
Did he prevail? Doth he yet rule over this realm?
This is the stuff! You and me battling side by side again. Flame Splitter! There's no time to waste. Here's to one last adventure.
このドールルックと呼ばれるグラフィック素敵ですね。そして再構築されたシナリオには大人になったキーファが。どのような物語が待ち受けているのかお楽しみに。さて続いてはちょっと穏やかな気持ちになれる2作品から発売時期の発表です。インコンビニワンストアメニーストーリーズはささやかな日常を描く心温まる物語。プレイヤーは小さな町のコンビニ店員となり、棚に商品を並べたり顔なじみのお客さんと交流したりしながら選択を通じて物語を紡いでいきます。心地のいい効果音でリラックス、ガチャやコレクションといった遊び心のある要素でお楽しみいただけます。インコンビニワンストアメニーストーリーズは2026年4月発売です。コーヒートーク東京は東京の小さなカフェを舞台にしたノベルアドベンチャーゲーム。プレイヤーはバリスタとなり心温まる一杯を入れてお客様の声に耳を傾けます。人間はもちろん雪女やカッパなど日本の妖怪の末裔たちもカフェを訪れ悩みや喜びを語り合います。コーヒートーク東京は2026年3月5日発売です。続いてのゲームは、おや急に静かになった気がしませんか。なんだか寒気も。さまざまな社会問題に切り込む人気ホラーシリーズブロークンロアから2作品が登場。1作目はブロークンロアアンフォロー。 SNS の暗い影に焦点を当てた一人称視点のホラーゲーム。見知らぬ不気味な家で目覚めたアン。脱出するため過去のトラウマや亡霊たちに追い詰められながらスマートフォンを駆使して出口を探していきます。ブロークンロアアンフォローは2026年1月16日発売です。さらに本日はシリーズ最新作ブロークンロアアセンドを初公開。シリーズおなじみの一人称視点のサバイバルホラーにクライミング要素が加わりました。前作ドントウォッチに引き続き東京が舞台の今作。主人公のレンとユイは動画配信サイトでの名声を求め危険を顧みずに東京タワーに挑みます。そこで2人を待ち受けるのは妖怪六六首。ブロークンロアアセンドは2026年夏発売予定です。
ritual so forbidden that speaking of it is taboo, and a place that must never be seen. If I could capture it with the camera obscura.
Hurry, leave the village. If you can get out of the village, you'll be able to escape your fate.
Don't let go. Together.
The twins, where are they? The new, the ritual. Why did you run? Accept the fate of the sacrifice!
The festival failed. It's all because we ran away. Mayu will be together forever.
Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake.
Shall we begin?
本日は光栄テクモゲームスよりゼロ赤い蝶リメイクディレクターの柴田さんにお越しいただきました。柴田さん、よろしくお願いいたします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。
2003年に発売されたゼロ赤い蝶が今回待望のリメイクということなんですけれども、トレーラーを拝見して恐ろしさがさらにパワーアップしていたように感じるんですが、そちら何か秘密はあるんでしょうか？
はい、ありがとうございます。光と影ですね。ホラーにとって重要なところについてはすごくこだわってライティングして、見えるところと見えないところのバランスを追求しています。またそのキャラクターの肌の質感、透明感とか、服のこう物の感じですよね、もうリアルに表現しました。チーム忍者のアクションディレクターも参加していますので、バトルも楽しんでいただきたいです。幽霊がだんだん怖いものが近づいてくるのをじっくり見ながらギリギリで撮影するっていう、怖さ、ゲームシステムのいいところは踏襲しながら、実際のカメラのような、ズームだったりピントだったりという新しい要素を追加しました。またこのフィルター、カメラのフィルターがあると思うんですが、それを切り替えると、見え方が変わっていってですね、音量に対してさまざまな効果があります。その戦闘でも探索でも特徴的な効果がありますので、状況に応じて切り替えながら使って、ゲームを進めていきます。
早くプレイしたいですさあ、本日は発売日の解禁という嬉しいニュースがありましたが、他にも新情報をご用意いただいたんですよね。
はい、実はデジタルデラックスエディションも発売が決定しました。こちらにはデジタルアートブックや特別な衣装が含まれており、本日初披露となります。本日から予約受付もスタートします。予約特典も各種ご用意しておりますので、皆さんぜひチェックしてみてください。
発売が待ち遠しいですね。柴田さん、本日はお忙しい中ありがとうございました。ゼロ赤い蝶リメイクは2026年3月12日発売予定です。そして光栄テクモゲームスからもう一つ発表があります。こちらの映像をご覧ください。
It was during what I believed would be my final battle that you appeared before me.
Fellow sons of the Yellow Earth, fly by my side. For together, we shall seize a new age of peace with our own hands.
続いて9月に放送したステイトオブプレイではグランツーリスモシリーズの生みの親山内和則さんからグランツーリスモ7の大型アップデートスペック3が年末に配信されると発表がありました。本日は山内さんから追加のお知らせが届いています。早速見てみましょう。
皆さんこんにちは。グランツーリスモシリーズプロデューサー山内和則です。間もなくグランツーリスモ1億本突破を記念したスペック3がリリースされますけれども、それに加えてもう一つニュースがあります。その名もですね、グランツーリスモ7パワーパックです。でパワーパックとは何かというとですね、これまでのグランツーリスモ7、グランツーリスモシリーズが、言ってみればレースゲームだったわけですけれども、パワーパックはリアルレーシングです。でその中には例えば24時間レースみたいなものも含まれています。でそういった本当にハードコアなリアルなレースの世界っていうものを、一度はグランツーリスモでやってみたかったので、今回パワーパックを作りました。パワーパックも、スペック3と同時に、この年末にリリースされます。であともう一つは12月の20日ですね、福岡でグランツーリスモワールドシリーズの最終戦ワールドファイナルが行われます。その会場でも皆さんにお会いできることを今から楽しみにしています。ありがとうございました。
山内和則さんありがとうございました。グランツーリスモ7パワーパックでのリアルレーシングにご期待ください。さあどんどん参りましょう。記録と再生で道を切り開く新感覚レコードパズルアクションモーションレック。移動する、ジャンプする、そして動きの軌跡を記録して再生する。一見進めそうにない道も記録した動きを別の場所で再生すれば必ず突破できる。多彩なギミックを駆使して荒廃したステージを探索し、機械に支配された世界の謎を解き明かしましょう。モーションレックは2026年春発売です。武教 RPG ワンダリングソード、全ての DLC を同梱した完全版がバージョンアップされてプレイステーション5に登場。ピクセルアートで描かれる古代の中国を舞台にしたオープンワールド RPG。 主人公は英雄を夢見て旅に出ます。
これこそが俺が歩むべき道だ。
プレイヤーの選択によって変わる20種類のエンディング、戦略もアクションも楽しめる2種類の戦闘モード、そして新たに日本人キャストによる日本語フルボイスを実装。
あなたと共にあるならこの命惜しくはございません。
2026年5月28日発売です。愛ソムニウムファイルシリーズ最新作伊達要は眠らない From 愛ソムニウムファイルがプレイステーション5とプレイステーション4に登場。特殊捜査官伊達要と彼の左目に埋め込まれた AI 相棒がさらわれたネットアイドルイリスの行方を追います。調査を進める捜査パート、真相心理を探るソムニウムパート、そして新たに追加された脱出パート、3つのパートを行き交い事件の真相に迫ります。プレイステーション5向けに進化したグラフィックで緊迫した物語が展開されます。伊達要は眠らない From 愛ソムニウムファイルは2026年2月26日発売です。あの伝説のゲームが20年ぶりにプレイステーションに帰ってきます。日本ゲーム大賞2025優秀賞も受賞した首都高バトルがついに復活。首都環状を舞台にカスタムした自分だけのマシンで400人以上のライバルと戦い、新時代の頂点を目指せ。シリーズ独自の SP バトルはドライバーの精神力を数値化したスピリットポイントを削り合う戦い。速さも重要ですがライバルとの心理戦こそが勝負を決める鍵となります。首都高バトルは2026年2月26日発売。パズル、RPG、推理アドベンチャー、そしてレースゲームまでバリエーションが豊かでしたね。さてここからはバンダイナムコエンターテインメントから DLC のお知らせです。 塊魂シリーズ最新作「ワンスアポンは塊魂」に2つの新 DLC が登場。第1弾「塊魂ダンスダンスリミックスパック」、第2弾「塊魂ネオリミックスパック」。5つの新しいリミックス BGM と10個の衣装アイテムをそれぞれ収録。各 DLC 配信時に特別な衣装アイテムを全員にプレゼント。最高のビートと新しいスタイルで今年を締めくくろう。ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグがパックマンワールド2リパックに登場します。ソニックならではのスピード感が味わえる新ステージに加え、おなじみのギミックやキャラクターも登場します。さらにボス戦ではドクターエッグマンとの戦いが待ち受けます。パックマンワールド2リパックソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグコラボレーションコンテンツはプレイステーション5とプレイステーション4で本日から配信開始。先月プレイステーション5で発売されたデジモンストーリータイムストレンジャーシーズンパスの DLC 第1弾追加デジモン&エピソードパック1アルタネイトディメンションがついに登場。新たに追加される個性豊かな5体のデジモンととある人物たちをめぐる物語が展開します。
その思いに俺たちも応える。
DLC 第1弾追加デジモン&エピソードパック1アルタネイトディメンションはこの冬配信です。今年8月に発売されたスーパーロボット対戦 Y から DLC が登場します。 DLC1 では銀河旋風ブライガーザ・ビッグオーフート探偵仮面ライダースカルの肖像の3作品が収録。3作品に関わる追加エリアミッションや追加プレイヤブル機体が楽しめます。スーパーロボット対戦 Y DLC1 は11月21日配信です。
さあお前の杖を数えろ。
今何か聞こえませんでした？全国のハンターの皆さんに朗報です。モンスターハンターワイルズ無料タイトルアップデート第4弾の配信日が12月16日に決定しました。このアップデートでは巨撃竜ゴグマジオスが登場予定です。さらにエンドコンテンツの拡充や季節イベント交わりの祭事も予定しています。12月16日から一狩り行こうぜ。続いてはソニックレーシングクロスワールドからのアップデート情報です。ソニックレーシングクロスワールド DLC スポンジボブパックは11月20日に配信です。続いてご紹介するのはアクションアドベンチャーネバーグレイブザ・ウィッチ&ザ・カース。新トレーラーの公開とさらに発売日もついに解禁です。 ネバーグレイブザ・ウィッチ&ザ・カース開発責任者酒井康臣さんにお越しいただきました。酒井さん、よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
酒井さん、トレーラーではゴーレムのような敵と戦っていたシーンがとても印象的だったんですけど、そのボス戦の魅力、そして他にどんなボスが登場するのか教えていただけますか？
はい、レーザー攻撃を繰り出していた巨大なゴーレムは最初のダンジョン遺跡のボスです。本作のボスはそれぞれ独自の攻撃パターンや特殊なギミックを持っていて、一筋縄ではいかないようになっています。例えば植物のボスは風を使ったり、ドラゴンのボスは溶岩を使ったり、マリオネットのボスはプレイヤーが使う魔法と似た魔法を使います。ボスによっては特定の敵への憑依が攻略の鍵になることもあります。またローグライクの要素によってダンジョン内のプレイヤー強化も毎回異なるため、ボスに繰り返し挑戦しても新鮮な緊張感を味わえると思います。
酒井さん、スタジオにお越しくださりありがとうございました。
お前が今いるこの場所は世界で唯一 DBS を搭載した実験室だ。
DBS 起動準備が整いました。3、2、1。
アバターとは可能性の海からサルベージしたデータをもとに構築した誰かの姿だ。ラグナというのはお前がダイブの際に使用できるアバターのうちの一つの名称だ。
つまり可能性のかけらとは無数に分岐する僕たちの未来の一部ということかい？
世界を救うためにはもっと情報が必要だ。
君はドクターメルクリウスが何か隠していると思ってます？
たとえアバターとリンクしていてもデータで構成された空間の中でお前は異物だ。
このことドクターメルクリウスに報告します。
あなたは可能性のかけらを一つ手に入れました。
全ては可能性だ。
ガセ、やめてください。黒な獣、
サルベージだ。そうだろう。
私たちが解析しているあの記憶の正体、一体何？
ブレイブルーエントロピーエフェクト X は完全新作ストーリー、そしてシリーズ過去作から直人黒金が参戦します。お楽しみに。さて、どんどん行きましょう。続いて冒険心をくすぐるラインナップを一挙にご紹介です。呪われた魔王デイモンと人間の子供が織りなす心温まる冒険活劇デーモン&ベイビー。探索要素とツインスティックシューターの戦闘システムを融合させた新感覚のアクション RPG。 アイテムを集めレベルを上げて新たなスキルを習得し、広大なステージを攻略しましょう。ステージはバラエティ豊かな敵やギミックがいっぱい。マシンガンやショットガンなど展開の武器を使って攻撃しましょう。魔王が赤ん坊を背負いながら戦い、その絆が深まっていく物語も大きな見どころです。子連れ魔王の壮大な冒険の幕が上がります。デーモン&ベイビーはプレイステーション5とプレイステーション4で2026年初旬発売です。ディスガイアシリーズのスタッフが手掛ける完全新作 3D アクション RPG 狂乱魔改ズム。主人公は倒した敵を従魔として従え、共に戦うことができます。強靭なドラゴンや妖艶なサキバスなど10魔の種類は全部で16種類。一緒に戦わせるのはもちろん、武器に変えて強力な技を放つことも可能です。全ての力を使いこなし、裏切り者から大切なプリンを取り戻しましょう。狂乱魔改ズムは2026年1月29日発売です。
していくぞ。
運命のトリガーはアンリアルエンジン5で開発された次世代のタクティカルヒーローシューターです。公開されているアウェイクナー10名に加え、新たにアタッカータイプのファリー、そしてディフェンダータイプのタタとその相棒ロボットビビが参戦します。分身を操り敵を翻弄するファリー、拠点を難攻不落の砦に変えていく奇才エンジニアのタタ、それぞれの個性的な能力を駆使してライバルを打ち破りましょう。さらに待望の新マップも。高くそびえる城壁、複雑な地形、変化に富む路地によって構成されます。全ての戦闘が唯一無二の体験になること間違いなし。お気に入りのヒーローを見つけ、新しい戦場で世界中のプレイヤーと競い合いましょう。ちなみに私は運命のトリガーにて両院の声を担当しています。他にも魅力的なキャラクターが勢ぞろいしていますので、ぜひプレイしてみてくださいね。次はスクエアエニックスの大人気シリーズ最新作「オクトパストラベラーゼロ」に関する発表です。
I wonder, there's no rest I long for, but as long as I hold a dim lamp for this road, all the souls I walked past may fade, but still last near. Shall this cause
You're finally awake!
If you can best me in battle, my technique shall be yours.
Oh, scarlet flame, blaze bright and cleanse this sacred land! Here they come! Let me see you bleed! Go down! Blood!
Wounds be healed.
How's that?
All the riches of the world are mine. Why, I'll even give you this dirty little town you so love, to do with as you please.
Power and the fear it induces is the only thing that can control people. You're a survivor of Wishvale. I will see you punished with my own two hands!
After losing the town, I finally understand what's truly important to me.
Let's do our best to rebuild Wishvale into the place it used to be.
You said it. I'm ready when you are.
Fame is nothing more than pretense. Will you continue to grip the blade of revenge, consumed by hatred? Marvelous! Let the finale begin!
.そしてなんと本日から体験版の配信を開始します。体験版はゲーム冒頭3時間をプレイできます。体験版でプレイした内容は本編発売時に引き継ぎが可能です。主人公のキャラクターメイクや序盤のストーリーをお楽しみください。本日はアークシステムワークスからマーベル闘魂ファイティングソウルズプロデューサーの山中さん、アートディレクターの黒坂さんにお越しいただきました。お二人ともどうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
よろしくお願いいたします。
マーベル闘魂ファイティングソウルズはどんな思いを込めて制作されたのか、それからファンの皆さんにはどんな体験を味わってほしいと考えていらっしゃるのかお話しいただけますでしょうか。
はい、このタイトル日本から世界へというキーワードを掲げて開発してまして、マーベルってもともとやっぱりアメリカで生まれてアメリカで育ってきた今や巨大なコンテンツになっていると思うんですけれども、それをですね我々日本人がどのように受け止めて、解釈して再構築して日本人らしくアークシステムワークスらしく出力していくかというところを非常にテーマの大きなテーマとして掲げています。その新しいマーベル日米のカルチャーが融合したマーベルというのをファンの方にぜひ楽しんでいただきたいなと思ってます。
これは続報がますます楽しみですね。
はい、で今回ですねプレイステーション5にて第2回目のクローズドベータを実施させていただきます。12月の第1週の週末を予定しておりまして、第1回 CBT、クローズドベータテストのキャラクターに加えてスパイダーマンとゴーストライダーがプレイアブルとなっております。本日はですね、2回目となるクローズドベータテストのですね予告トレーラーを持ってきました。こちらをご覧ください。
親愛なる隣人スパイダーマンだ。
さあ始めようぜ。地獄へのロードトリップだ。
いやー、ワクワクさせられましたね。どんな展開になるのか期待です。トレーラーに映っていたのって X マンションのステージですよね。こちらは新しいステージなんでしょうか。
さすがよく気づきましたね。
そうですね、今回の X マンションステージ、いろいろな宝探しを楽しんでもらえるように、細かいネタだったり、ギミックだったりをいっぱい仕込んでますので、ぜひねプレイして、こちら見ていただけると嬉しいと思ってます。このステージは1エリアだけのステージになっています。エリアが少ないので、ちょっとね内容が薄いって思う方もいるかもしれませんが、こちらバトルの進行に合わせてドラマチックに変化するような面白い仕掛けを取り入れてます。
ゴーストライダーはダークで迫力あるキャラクターですが、ビジュアルやアニメーションをデザインする上でどんなチャレンジがありましたか。
はい、まずゴーストライダーを出すにあたって、まずキャラクター、すぐにゴーストライダーがいるので、そのキャラクターを誰にするのかというところで、かなり悩みがありました。今回ですねロビー・レイエスを採用させていただいたわけです。
なぜロビー・レイエスのゴーストライダーを選ばれたんでしょうか。
はい、今日の時点ではちょっと詳しくはお話できないんですけど、ストーリー的にですね今回ちょっと若い方の、ゴーストライダーを出したいというちょっと事情がありまして、描きたかったっていう事情がありまして、今回はジョニー・ブレズではなくてロビーの方を選んだということになります。
なるほど。僕もマーベルファンの一人として、そして声優としてユニバースにも関わらせていただいているので、今作がどのように広がっていくのかとても楽しみです。それでは最後に世界中のファンの皆さんに向けてメッセージをお願いします。
このゲーム、皆さんのお力をもとにもっともっといいゲームにしていきたいと思っていますので、ぜひ第2回クローズドベータテストにもご参加いただきまして、皆さんが感じたこと、ご意見ご要望をですねいただければと思います。
日本のアニメとアメコミが融合したマーベルの独特のアート表現をぜひプレイして楽しんでください。
本日は素敵なお話を聞かせていただきまして本当にありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
Bring an end to it ourselves. Curse this Dreadlord.
楽しみいただけましたでしょうか。私も早くプレイしたいゲームばかりです。 PS5 の5周年という節目に改めて PS5 の体験をご説明するとともに、いくつかのニュースを共有します。 PS5 の体験といえばデュアルセンスワイヤレスコントローラーです。 PS5 をお買い上げいただくとすぐにアストロズプレイルームで体験いただけますが、キャラクターがステージを動き回る様がこれまでにない感覚でお楽しみいただけます。技術的にはアダプティブトリガーとハプティックフィードバック、そして内蔵スピーカーによって目で見る情報、耳から聞く情報、手で感じる情報の3つが調整されて生み出される体験です。そして PS5 は目を見張るような綺麗な映像、ストレスを感じないスピーディーなゲーム進行を実現するための技術も詰め込んでいます。ネットワークを通じて進化し続ける体験、プレイステーションアップ、ファミリーアップを通じたスマホでの体験など、いつでもどこでもフレンドやコンテンツに簡単にアクセスできます。また PS5 においては数千の PS4 向けのゲームも遊ぶことができ、過去にご購入いただいたゲームに加え PS4 向けにしか発売されなかったゲームも遊べます。たくさんの方々にリビングルームの大きなテレビで PS5 をお使いいただいておりますが、プレイステーションポータルリモートプレイヤーを通じてリビングルームを超えて PS5 を楽しめるようなご提案も差し上げております。そして本日ゲーミングモニターを日本と米国で発売することを発表します。鮮やかな映像に加えデュアルセンスワイヤレスコントローラーを充電できるフックも搭載しています。先日発表しましたパルスエレベートワイヤレススピーカーとともにデスクトップ環境でも PS5 を存分にお楽しみください。 PS5 をどこでどのように楽しむかの選択肢を今後も広げてまいります。最後に PS5 の5周年を記念して日本国内の皆さんに特別なご案内があります。日本アカウント日本語専用の PS5 をご用意します。本モデルは希望小売価格税込5万5,000円とお求めになりやすい PS5 デジタルエディションです。日本でより多くのプレイヤーの皆さんに PS5 そして素晴らしいゲームをお楽しみいただきたいと思っております。
今日ご紹介した全てのゲームには作品ごとに異なる魅力がたくさん詰め込まれています。時には仲間と一緒に、時には一人でじっくりと。プレイステーションにはあらゆる遊び方があります。この番組が皆さんの次の冒険のきっかけになれば嬉しいです。それではまたお会いしましょう。ありがとうございました。
Beyond and hello and welcome once again to a very special live post-show edition of IGN's weekly PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Max Scoville, and here to help me break down everything that was just revealed on Sony's latest Japan-focused State of Play presentation, the one and only Nick Lamone. What's up, Nick? Beyond.
Hey, Max, Beyond. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So we brought you over here because we're talking about this. Sony usually does like states of play. Sometimes they're like, this is aligned with TGS. We couldn't particularly recall a time that they've done a state of play Japan that was very like Japanese and Asian games focused specifically. And yeah, going in where I think you were like, are you ready for like a new Trails in the Sky game or like E17 or whatever. And sure enough, we did get a lot of kind of deeper cut. A lot of JRPG stuff, some kind of deeper cut games franchises we're not as familiar with. But one of the let's start with the big last one, which was DLC is coming to Elden Ring Night Rain, which is coming on December 4th. It is, what is it? The Forsaken Hollows.
Hollows.
I completely forgot about this. Was that came out this year, didn't it?
That came out much earlier this year, and honestly, it's probably in my top 5 for the year so far. I didn't think I'd really gravitate towards a multiplayer-focused Elden Ring game, or just FromSoft. When I play FromSoft, I like to treat it as a solo experience, but honestly, the way they designed the multiplayer element around this felt very almost extraction shooter-esque, and I just loved how fast-paced and just you're going 100% right from the get-go. And I was a little bit bummed that I kind of burned through the entire experience pretty quickly. And I know FromSoft has done a great job of updating the game to include souped up challenging bosses throughout the game's like lifespan, but seeing all of the stuff that they are injecting with this brand new DLC has so exciting. One thing that stood out to me as my favorite Dark Souls is Dark Souls 1. So the thing that stood out to me was seeing Artorias of the Abyss there, who was, the big bad guy, or one of the bad guys / good guy turned bad in the Dark Souls DLC, where you kind of went back into the past. So just seeing Artorias, such an iconic character, come back to life, and you're gonna have to fight him yet again, is super duper exciting, along with a lot of really cool stuff that we got glimpses of. So I can't wait. It looks like we also got a new character class, someone who is wielding like a rapier. So I'm very curious to see what that's all about.
What would you say has you the most excited? And like, do you have kind of a barometer on what the community around this game has really been asking for the most? Because I know that it had kind of a rough launch. I feel like it was not as bad as some of these games you see, but I know that there was some issues with the beta, people just kind of bouncing off of it. And then, at launch, there was a bunch of kind of kerfuffle that you couldn't just play with 2 players, and then they eventually added that in. I feel like they've been doing a lot of kind of gradual fixes, but did anything in here kind of jump out at you as being like, oh, that's a thing that's going to get people hyped?
Honestly, it's the fact that we get to see brand new environments. That's the thing that stood out dramatically, because when you land in the Lands Between, or the whatever it's called in Night Rain, just because it is like this alternate universe version of the Lands Between, I think when you do enough runs in the game, whether it be run backs or just failed attempts, you kind of get tired of hitting the same like pathways that you're used to seeing. You're always going to have the dudes chugging giant exploding barrels at you from this castle over here, and look, the event happens where the earth opens up and you have to descend into the kiln-esque area where you can get a legendary upgrade. Just, you got to understand the game in a way that felt like, well, I like to play these games because of the mystery. So when you become essentially a pro player at the game to some extent, because you've played it so many times, given the nature of the game, it's just kind of starts to feel like less of a special thing and more like a fighting game to some extent at a certain point, because it's not all about, I need to get to the Night Lord and I need to be able to figure out his pattern and beat him. So seeing new areas will really inject new life, and I'm hoping that we'll get more than just, from what I could see, more than one character class, but curious to see how that new character, from what I saw, at least it looked like a new character, how that kind of transforms your overall party composition in Night Rain.
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, this is definitely a very pleasant surprise for the, end of the year coming up pretty quick. Now, another thing we got to focus on a little bit just in time for Halloween to be over is we saw some cool looking horror games. Obviously, it's always a good time of year for a spooky game, but we got a couple of interesting ones. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly, or Fatal Frame Crimson Butterfly 2 is getting a full remake. This was originally released in 2003. It's got twins, it's got rituals, it's got taking pictures of the ghosts with a camera.
Always those taboo rituals in rural Japan, man. No, I'm a huge Fatal Frame fan. Say that 5 times fast. I think they've done such a good job of allowing new players to get into the series with all of the overhauled remakes and remasters that they've been putting out. And if you've never played a Fatal Frame, the TLDR is you are in a survival horror game where your only weapon is the camera obscura. It's a weapon that you take photos of very spooky ghosts that are very scary, and you actually do more damage in your combat with the ghosts the closer you let them get to the lens. So there is this dramatic tension of, I could do a lot more damage the closer I get to the ghost, but also I have to get closer to the ghost. That's very scary, and obviously it can harm you. But yeah, just a flavor of J-horror that I don't think we get quite enough of these days. It's very evocative of something like the original Ring, or one of my all-time favorite found footage horror movies, Noroi: The Curse. Just that era of J-horror that I feel like we haven't really seen in a while. So getting to relive those experiences in high fidelity on modern hardware will hopefully make more fans so that we can get more Fatal Frame games, because they rock.
Nice. Well, that's coming out in March on the 12th. I feel like this will sit well with anybody who was really into Silent Hill F. Just the time period seems like pretty lined up well. We also got to look at a couple horror games that are considerably more contemporary in their setting. Broken Lore Unfollow is a first-person psychological horror game about, I would hear, like an influencer stuck in a scary house, and it's somehow like it's a haunted house, but somehow about social media.
Yeah. Yeah, like the whole presentation kind of centered the game around being like this whole like take on like a social horror in a way that reminded me a lot of Silent Hill: The Short Message, which was that free PlayStation game that they put out, I think like 2 years ago at this point. But it's like a 2-hour long Silent Hill experience all about social media and like bullying. So seeing that extrapolated into this seems super exciting. But the one that actually caught my attention a lot more was that Broken Lore Ascend, which is another found footage. I'm a sucker for found footage, in case you haven't figured that out yet, where you have to climb the Tokyo Skytree or Tokyo Tower as part of like this kind of dare for some sort of YouTube channel. And again, this is, I'm name dropping a bunch of different horror movies, but there's a Korean horror film called Gonjam Haunted Asylum about streamers who break into a haunted asylum, and they do it as a whole setup and gimmick, and then it's revealed, no, there's some really crazy stuff going on. So I love the idea of having like modern sensibilities of why people would be putting themselves in these extreme situations for the hashtag content. And honestly, I feel like that's pretty relatable, and I think that's such a good lens to look at horror through. J-horror in particular has always been about shining a light on issues that are important to Japan at the time, and I do think that this social media perspective / content creator perspective is such a refreshing new approach that allows horror to feel relevant without it feeling like, okay, would you really still be holding a camera now though? And it's like, yeah, you would, because you're trying to get that sponsored content going on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. Looking at this, there are a few other entries in this series, and I get the sense that they're almost like kind of smaller scale vignettes. There's one that's out on PC now called Broken Lore Low, which is, it says realistic graphics with low poly elements. It kind of looks like what we're seeing here. And it's incorporating some yokai, like some traditional Japanese folklore, but clearly with like a much more modern setting. I am such a sucker for horror that looks like it's in a normal place.
Yeah.
Like this shot of the staircase with the balloons, like like a normal looking subway station is so much scarier to me than, I don't know, going up on the Tokyo Skytree. That's scary too, but I feel like there's something about the mundane that's inherently very, very creepy.
100% agree. And the one thing that I've always been a little bit disappointed by is that it seems like PlayStation's kind of abandoned its Siren series. And granted, that's its very own distinct thing for PlayStation, but this was very channeling a lot of things that Siren was known for in terms of just showing me types of horror I've never seen before. And I'm a sucker for looking at different cultural horror, like different mythological figures, whether it be folklore or just creature designs, stuff that we just don't really get in the US. I think we have Bigfoot and maybe the Mothman and the Jersey Devil, and that's about it. So being able to see different spooky things from across the world is always going to be a welcome treat. And this is such a fun take on that kind of horror.
I want a Mothman game now.
Give me a Mothman Prophecies 2.
I love
Come on.
the Mothman. Yeah.
Sony Ben, what are you doing? Give me a Mothman
Get
game.
Richard Keel on the phone. He's got some theories about this. No, like they got Mothman in Persona, but that doesn't count for me. Anyway, speaking of JRPGs, we were speculating maybe we'd get a peek at a new Persona game or something in that department, which unfortunately we didn't. But we did get a better look at Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, another storied JRPG series. This one is out pretty soon. It's out in February on the 5th, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong, is this a remake of a 2000 and...
So it's a little bit strange. So Dragon Quest VII originally released on the PlayStation just around the time of Final Fantasy VII, I want to say, but it's a very different game from Final Fantasy VII, given Final Fantasy VII was this blockbuster. Dragon Quest VII is infamous for being a game that takes approximately 10 hours or so before you actually get into your first battle in the game. It is just a lot of story and a lot of setup. And granted, it's an excellent story. It's it gets a little bit spoiled in this presentation, but apart from that, this game was then later remade on the 3DS that streamlined a lot of that. Waiting 10 hours to get to combat to make it like waiting only 5 hours. And EGM, I believe, actually had a full cover story for this Dragon Quest VII remake that basically confirms that the game is being streamlined significantly. So now you can get into a battle within the first 2 hours of the game. But there is a lot of concern that there's going to be a lot of cut content that really made the game, stand out as its own charming Dragon Quest entry. So I'm very curious to see how they handle it. But you pointed out when we were watching, the art direction of the game is pretty significantly different from what we've seen with the HD 2D remakes that have recently come out for Dragon Quest. And you said they look like miniatures or something like that?
They're very toyetic. I feel like they capture that Akira Toriyama's particular art style, but in a way that it really reminds me more of like the Link's Awakening remake. Like it's got this kind of tilt shift feeling to it.
Yeah, it's delightful, and it just made me like smile to hear you say that, because Square Enix also confirmed that they had designed miniature marionettes of all of the characters to kind of serve as their basis for like framing its art direction for this game. So it's just such a unique perspective. I was a little bit concerned that Dragon Quest and all Square Enix like RPGs that were remakes or remasters were all going to go the way of HD 2D, which is a cool look, don't get me wrong, but there's so many more interesting art styles and art directions to take with games like this, and I'm very excited to see this new perspective. But it is kind of wild. Square Enix and Yuji Horii have been on quite the roll with all of the HD remakes of Dragon Quest. We got the Dragon Quest III HD remake, HD 2D remake 2 years ago, and then Dragon Quest 1 and 2 came out a couple weeks ago, and now we're getting this just a couple months from now, which is pretty wild. That's a lot of good Dragon Quest. I think Dragon Quest never really had a huge grip on the US market the way it does Japan, but I'm starting to see it take off a little bit more here, which is very refreshing to see, and honestly just means good things for RPG fans, because we're going to be eating real good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this one, what is infamously known for just being like a basic playthrough, is over 100 hours, which
it's gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, I love that like JRPGs are like they always hover around a pretty sizable runtime, but that even seems like pretty daunting. Yeah, that's exciting. We also got to look at Octopath Traveler 0, which is coming very soon. When is that dropping? That is, there's a demo out now. That's what they're saying. Which is very cool. I feel like that feels like the prize in the cereal box with these things, where like most of it is sort of a look ahead, but for them to be like, hey, it's out now. And this is a kind of continuing what Square Enix has been doing with a lot of their demos, which I think is just extremely commendable and just very respectful of players, where it's like, check out our demo, your progress carries over, which is just music to my ears, because like I don't know how many demos or how many betas or whatever I've checked out and just been like, oh, okay, well I have to do this all over again if I actually decide to play the full game. So I like that this has become standard practice for them, which is rad.
Yeah, it feels like it's very respectful of the player's time, and it also is such a consumer friendly practice in that this is one, how you build trust with a player base, and two, how you get new fans in a series. There's a lot of people who would look at something called Octopath Traveler Zero and be like, well, I haven't played any of the other ones. I know it's called Zero, but what do I do? And the fact that there is a free demo, and I'm pretty sure there's a free demo for Octopath Traveler 2 as well, that with progress that carries over to the full game. So there's no reason not to check it out if you're just a little bit interested. And then I cannot sing the praises of Octopath Traveler series enough. 1 was okay, 2 was fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to 0 because I believe it originally started as some sort of version of the mobile game, the Champions of the North, I believe is what it's called, but then it kind of turned into its full, fleshed out, own standalone entry that has a pretty complex like town building mechanic that is new to the Octopath Traveler series. And get this, you can have, I want to say it's 5 party members in the party at once, along with like 5 in the back row or something like that. So like one thing in RPGs, turn-based RPGs specifically, is when you're always limited to 3 party members, where you're like, you guys made so many cool characters, how can I only just choose 3 to fight with? This game really opens up that roster to allow you to have a ton of characters on screen, which is super cool.
Yeah, no, this is rad. The base building thing is fascinating to me. One of the weird caveats there is that this is coming to multi-platform. It's coming to, I think, PS4, Switch 1,
Switch 2,
PS5. Yeah, it's coming to a bunch of them, I think, and it's got this weird staggered number of buildings you can have. So for your town building aspect on PS5 and Xbox Series X, you can have 500 buildings, which is I don't know like, without having experienced what the base building is like.
Yeah.
Like, is that a lot? Is that a reasonable amount? Is that too many? But if you're playing on the original Switch, it is only 250. So you have half as big of a village depending on where you're playing, which is like clearly a byproduct of the hardware limitations. But it's extremely funny that they didn't just, I don't know, design with the lowball end in mind. But
in one version of the game, you get a town, and then in another version, you get a full metropolis.
Yeah, right. That's wild. I mean, I guess that's, in the olden days, we'd be like, which version of this game is performs the best? And this one's like, how big a city do you want to build? This is very funny to me. Now, moving on, there were a couple of, like, I don't want to call them indie games specifically, but like a bunch of smaller games that caught our attention. One of them was, what was it called? Damon and Baby.
Damon and Baby, yes.
Damon and Baby.
It's a cute title. I'm in. That's all you need, a good title, and I'm in. I think this stands out. Like, one thing that I just love to my absolute core is a nice twin stick shooter. And seeing this with like a nice RPG wrapper and a good title, Damon and Baby, like, yes, please give me this immediately. I love me some twin stick shooters. I love me some RPGs, but never have the two ever met other than, oh man, I can't think of it. It was a Mini Drift Adventure. Sorry. Woo, that was quite the pull. But no, this looks like just something that is fast, actiony, kind of get in, get a run in, and then you go to bed and then try again tomorrow type of situation. And
yeah, the
really
thing
cool
with games
art
like
style.
this is I dig it. It's I don't know, very playful. Yeah, looking at games like this, when there's clearly an abundance of systems at play, you kind of simultaneously know exactly what the game is by glancing at it, but also there's a lot you don't know. So I'm unclear if this has roguelite elements or what, but one game we do know has some roguelite elements is Nevergrave, the Witch, and the Curse, which at a glance we're kind of like, okay, it's sort of a Hollow Knight-esque type thing.
Yeah, a Metroidvania-esque.
Yeah, and it's similar color palette, and then we see this character just explode into blood, which was
it's
startling.
A pretty brutal death for such a cute-looking game, but it's one of those games, every now and then you take a look at a game and you're like, wow, I think this might be the most video game thing I've seen in a minute, where there's just very clearly a lot of TLC put into the action platforming that's at play, where it just looks like it would put Hollow Knight's Path of Pain to shame, where it's just this brutal, hard as hell Celeste, Super Meat Boy style platforming, along with like this possession mechanic where you can kind of overtake enemies and fight as them. And then there's like a town building mechanic, a cooking mechanic.
It keeps going, right?
There's
like
a crafting mechanic,
yeah.
RPG skill trees.
And it's a roguelite, of course, and yeah.
Looks very substantial, so it looks like a game that gives you a lot of bang for your buck, which I know a lot of people really appreciate. And honestly, hats off to them, because it's hard to make it's hard to do one of those well And the fact that this footage all looks solid is got to be a feat unto itself. This looks really fun.
Yeah, that one is out on March 5th. Another one, if that looks too overwhelming, I think that's a correct assessment. And if you want something a little more chill, there's also one called Incombini, One Store, Many Stories. I think that might be the slogan just tacked on there. But it's like a cozy game about running a convenience store, Combini, in Japan. And this one, kind of, I latched on this one. I like the style of it a lot. I'm not typically one for cozy games, but I think a lot of that depends on what you find pleasure in doing in terms of mundane activities. And there's a shot of just putting stuff on shelves, like putting some bread on the shelves. And I don't know why the bread looked good. You got some milk there, put the milk away. I also feel okay, listen, I sort of feel like I should play this game out of guilt and obligation because of how many convenience stores I've absolutely ruined in Yakuza. Like how many dudes' heads I've shoved in microwaves and stuff. Like I feel like I should just pay it forward and go and, work my time off.
That needs to be one of the stories in this game, is just two people get into a fight in the convenience store and you have to deal with the aftermath of it.
Just pick up all those pieces. Yeah, that's wild. But yeah, this looks like, I don't know, it's very, very quaint and charming. And there's another game in here that we got a look at that I wouldn't call it indie by a long shot, but it's a smaller scale experience in the Blaze Blue franchise, which is Blaze Blue was Entropy Effect X, I think.
That's it. Hey, claps all around for Max for remembering that title.
I took notes, and I'm not sure if I took very good notes. But yeah, I mean, Blaze Blue has historically been one of Arc System Works' big fighting series, is that and Guilty Gear. And this is like a side-scroller action game of some sort, kind of looking a little Metroidvania-y.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if any developer or publisher out there wants Nick Lamone's money, just make your game a Metroidvania, and I will buy it at some point. And this just takes all of the things that always impress me from Arc System Work games, i.e., the art style and just the overall cool sensibility of all of their games, and then puts it in a wrapper that I can understand, unlike a fighting game. That said, this looks really fun. I'm very curious to see how this lines up, given that they just recently put out, I think you pointed out, the Double Dragon game, which was not as highly acclaimed as their fighting games, one might say.
Yeah, that one, I don't know, it seemed like a kind of easy up for me, like, just because it's like, if you can make a fighting game that is tuned enough to be I don't know, airtight for a competitive crowd, like for people who are really just like trying to poke as many holes in it as possible and really just running it through the ringer, you'd think that a sort of, single player, maybe cooperative experience would be, easier to balance, but I don't know exactly what they did that didn't quite stick the landing there. So I want this to be cool. I don't know, like, I love the idea of fighting games. I love character driven stuff. I just think they're fun and colorful, but at the same time, the actual experience of playing them, like, I'm a completely casual scrub in that department. It's taken me a long time to recognize that, like, this isn't my kind of game, but I have a very kind of like outsider respect for it. So I love the idea of taking a fighting game roster and a fighting game universe and just repurposing those characters in a completely new genre format. So
100%. And I think that, like, the thing that stands out to me is, like, the PlayStation's really good at particle effects. So seeing all of this, like, screen filling, super special effects looks like a thing that I just cannot wait to enjoy on, like, an HDR screen that has, just something that really takes advantage of everything the PlayStation's capable of, which just looks gorgeous. And I didn't mean to accidentally segue us to this, but maybe I kind of did. PlayStation also announced a new piece of hardware just randomly at the end when we thought that the conference was over, the presentation was over.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because we joke around a bit about how Sony's is very gradually kind of tiptoeing towards a PC, and, like, I think the last one of these they did, one of the big final announcements was, check it out, we made a pair of desktop speakers, which, they don't have to be desktop. You can play them with your PlayStation Portal. You can play them. You can put them on the floor or a different type of furniture than a desk, I suppose. And then today they carted out this brand new monitor, which is very clearly meant for, yes, you can play a PS5 on a desk and, in some kind of dorm room, smaller apartment situations. That makes a ton of sense. Also, if you're getting old and it's hard to read the TV from 6 feet away, that also makes a ton of sense. I found myself lamenting that earlier. But right now they have unveiled everything but a keyboard and a tower and a mouse. Like, they're slowly building a PC in front of us in these presentations. And I'm just wondering when they're going to fully do that. And it's actually, no, they make keyboards. What am I saying? Like, Sony put out like a $400 keyboard. Like, are we going to get like a PlayStation branded PC? Are they going to bring back the Vio?
I wouldn't put it past them, but honestly, the monitor is nothing to scoff at. I'm just taking a look at the specs real quick here. It's a 27-inch QHD monitor, so 1440p, and it has HDR support, 240 hertz, and VRR support. So this is going to be a pretty solid little monitor for you to play your PlayStation 5 on. The only thing that's a little bit surprising to me is that it is a 1440p monitor when so much of the PlayStation 5's like marketing materials is 4K. But that said, there is a pretty significant price difference between a 4K monitor and a 1440p monitor at 240 hertz HDR, so that's probably a cost-effective thing on their side. So it makes sense, and at 27 inches, 1440p is plenty for you.
And if you're sitting like 3 feet away, if you're sitting at a desk, like I feel like it's negligible. The thing you're glossing over is it's got a little kickstand for your DualSense to pop it on there. I think that's funny as hell.
That's pretty classy. I like that a lot. It would look good on those like minimalist desks and whatnot. So yeah, hats off to them.
Again, like you can use a DualSense with PC games. Lots and lots of people do, and it's sort of like, oh, is this like a nice fix for your gaming situation? Are you gonna?
And I think I pointed it out last time of when they unveiled those speakers. PlayStation and Sony in particular, Sony does a really good job of creating this all-inclusive ecosystem that when you connect your PlayStation to a Sony product, whether it be speakers or a Sony like Bravia TV, it basically auto-tunes the HDR for you, auto-adjusts all of the display settings, be like, here's what you want, you dummy. We fixed it all for you, and it's going to look as good as it possibly can. And I think that's something that a lot of people take for granted because a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to tweak their settings when most people, especially with a PlayStation, with a console, just want to pick up the controller and play. And the fact that Sony takes a lot of that guesswork out of the equation is such a smart move. And I don't know if it's possible for other manufacturers to do that, but it's really cool when you connect your PlayStation to a Bravia and some speakers. It's just like, here you go, we fixed it all for you, you can enjoy your game now.
Yeah, I don't know. When stuff just works, I love it. That's a wonderful addition. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Sony makes nice hardware. That's that's always been the case. So it's kind of cool when they cart out something like this. It reminds me a little bit of they put out a TV in, I want to say like 2011 or 2012
for the PS3.
Yep,
Yes,
yep.
The 3D,
the 3D TV that had two sets of glasses, and you could play a handful of games co-op or split screen, but it wasn't split screen because one screen would go with each pair of glasses, which I honestly think is still witchcraft. I love that as just a gimmicky machine. So yeah, again, a monitor that has a DualSense charging port is such like that feels like weird, like crazy mad scientist Sony doing that stuff again. So yeah,
and it was a high-end monitor, which is again just always continues to set the precedent that Sony just does make quality products. You know, I know they make PlayStations and all that stuff, but they are known for their TVs as well, and those displays are beautiful.
Yeah. Now this would have been a very easy segue when we were talking about the Blaze Blue stuff. One of the biggest games that got shown off was, of course, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. Is it Spirits? Souls?
Fighting. I thought it was Fighting Spirits. I don't know. Now we got a guesswork. I'm doing a quick Google search.
I don't know what I'm Tokon about. But yeah, this game looks sick. I love that this exists. I got very excited because one of the big reveals was the X Mansion. Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. It's just like as a backdrop, I don't know, like this is a universe that I love very dearly, and I love what they're doing, that they're sort of infusing anime aesthetics and sensibilities with these like iconic characters, and just I love that Marvel's letting them play in this sandbox and not being like, oh, it's got to be this particular way. And again, as this Arc System works, like I feel like they just do some completely off the rails character design, and they're just having fun with it, and it looks sick as hell. And they got all these, like, they showed off the different areas of the Savage Land. They got all the different dinosaurs in the background. They got Kazar's Treehouse, which is the funniest name for a level, and Brachiosaurus Forest. And then they showed off the X Mansion. And then I love afterward, the devs came on and they were like, hey, we regret to inform you that this front lawn of Xavier's mansion is it's only one area. It's not all other parts of the mansion, but bunch of weird stuff is going to happen in the background of that mansion. And just in the footage we saw, I feel like there was different members of the X-Men hanging around and watching people just like duke it out in the front yard. You got Gambit having a cigarette on the side there.
Yeah, I saw like a Sentinel walking around in the background. So I saw like Archangel.
Those Sentinels are not good at their job. They're like this, there's like a giant mutant fight happening right there, and they're just like, did you say anything?
This game looks beautiful, man.
This game is gorgeous, and it's we actually had a whole show planned to talk about Marvel games previously, prior to finding out there was going to be a state of play. And one of the things I want to talk about is they just had an interview with Game Informer with one of the head folks at Marvel Games. Hold on, I'll pull up the name here in just a second. Doing great. Luke Mentes, who's general manager of Marvel Games, who basically talked about a bunch of the games that are in the works currently. And you've got, obviously Marvel Rivals is doing really well right now. That's huge. I feel like that was a big leap of faith. And when that was initially in the works, there was a lot of skepticism about it being free to play, about it being, too grabby. And then a lot of people really got into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just enjoyed its anniversary not too long ago, a couple days ago, and they've added Marvel Zombies to the game as like a PvE thing. It's pretty impressive, the stuff that they've been doing with that game that has seemed to really grab the Overwatch audience, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah, and then meanwhile you've got the Marvel Fighting Souls, the name we can't remember.
Fighting
right?
Souls, there you
Fighting
go.
Souls, which again, it's like Arc System Works did this with Dragon Ball Z with Fighters, and I feel like Capcom completely dropped the ball with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And if this kind of swoops in and grabs that, fast-paced 2.5D combo-based fighting game corner, I think that could very well cement it as like a mainstay.
Yeah, and I think it's completely like captured the spirit, or the soul rather,
there it is,
of the Marvel vs. Capcom art style that always like stuck with me. Like to this day, I still think it's one of the most beautiful looking pixel arts I've ever seen put on a screen. And this feels like the next logical step of that, like in this kind of cell shaded look. But the thing that stands out to me about this game, and they talk a little bit about it in this presentation, is that they aren't doing it just for the people who grew up playing Marvel vs. Capcom. This is very much like taking into consideration a lot of the more recent Marvel developments. We have the younger Ghost Rider here, which I think is just a nice touch. He has his hot rod instead of his motorcycle.
You know what that immediately made me think of? Red Line.
Oh, dude, yes, Red Line.
Race
Oh,
is
man.
gonna get in a muscle car, just like at that, for that really exaggerated perspective, looks so much like the anime Red Line, which is just
an all-timer, beautiful looking anime. Yeah, I mean, we see the shot right there.
There's
we see
no
the
way
car
that's
getting,
not just a deliberate Red Line.
Yeah,
callback.
you see
That's
the
so
car
cool.
getting stretched out. That's really cool. I didn't even think about that.
So good.
Good call.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of multiple Marvel games we're getting currently. Right now, there is Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which is coming out, I think, the same week that this has its open or closed beta. That is the one from the team that did Shredder's Revenge, which
Very
is
exciting.
Yeah, and I don't know, it looks phenomenal. Like, it has this wonderful sense of deja vu where like a bunch of the characters in it did get side scroller beat 'em up games back in the olden days, or did get arcade games. And then they're throwing in a bunch of new ones. Like they got like Beta Ray Bill is in there for like that's horse.
Oh, that's
Like,
wild.
what's he doing there? It looks like a really good time. And I don't know, I like the sheer variety of games we're getting. We're also getting Deadpool VR, which is unfortunately exclusive to Meta Quest 3, which I don't have one of those kicking around. And I think it's by a Meta-owned studio. What are they called? Twisted Pixel. So it's unlikely it's ever going to come to PSVR 2, but if it does, that would be really cool. And again, we're such a long way from where Marvel games used to be.
Oh,
where
yeah.
They used to be kind of in a similar boat to what happened with the movies, where they would just farm out the licenses every which way, and people would just kind of make, like, some people would try and some people would make complete crap, and you really had no way of gauging it. And you were also probably 8 years old at the time, so even if it was crap, you couldn't tell. But it feels like they've really managed to rein things in, and it's so cool to see. And of course, we're getting Wolverine next year. There's also 1943 Rise of Hydra from Amy Hennig Studio, which was Skydance.
That just got delayed, right?
That got delayed. At a very. I feel like they were waiting for GTA to delay, and they were just like, "We're also delayed," and no one's mad about it because they're mad at GTA instead of us. But
I mean, it's just, as you point out, it's Marvel games of different styles, varieties, and I think scope as well. Which you have your Insomniacs Wolverine, which is on one high end, along with Marvel Rise of Hydra. Is that what it's called? 1943.
Yep.
But you have all that stuff, and then you have the smaller stuff like the Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which is a little something for everyone, as we like to say here at IGN.
Well, it's also it seems like they're kind of tailoring the game to the character and like what makes sense here. And I don't know, growing up, it's like you got a lot of side-scrolling platformers, and sometimes they would be like, yeah, it's about Spider-Man, and it would work okay, and other times it'd be like, yeah, it's about 6 different playable X-Men, and it sucks because we couldn't balance all of them, because that's hard to do. And it's like, well, I don't know, one person can teleport, the other person can control the weather, one guy can't die. How do you make a good game out of that? It's kind of impossible. So it's cool to see them kind of zeroing in on that. There's also an Iron Man game in the works at some Nebula. I think it's Motive, actually, it's working on that. And then there's Blade at the studio that gave us Dishonored.
Is that Arcane Leon?
Arcane Leon, yeah, which is just feels like such a good fit.
Yeah, an immersive sim Blade, yes, please.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's just nice to see these things kind of going in all these different directions. So I'm happy about it. Nick, overall, what did you think about this state of play? Did it do anything for you?
Yeah, honestly, there's just they aren't games. A lot of them aren't games that I'm going to go out and play day one. However, right now is like typically the time of year where I want to play some spooky stuff. I want to play some stuff that it's a little bit on my backlog, and I couldn't think of a better time to jump into games like this. There's always going to be room for smaller games in every gamer's backlog, and I think this is the perfect smorgasbord for people to enjoy. And real quick, I want to shout out just seeing Big O in Super Robot Wars Y. I love me some Big O. Anime Batman. I love it.
Very good. Yeah, I love the complete and utter kit bash insanity that is Super Robot Wars. So good to see that there. There was a bunch of DLC here. You know, overall, this wasn't a huge earth-shaking state of play, and I don't think Sony set it up to be at all. So it was kind of nice to see a handful of little tidbits of announcements, and you know, it was a fun little just regular Tuesday surprise. And we got to see Pac-Man wearing a Sonic the Hedgehog hat, which I didn't think was going to happen today.
And grinding a rail. That's wild. I didn't think he could do that.
Pretty wild. Before we go, real quick, I just want to give a shout out to what's going on at IGN's sister site, Humble. If you're looking for something new to play and a way to give back, you can head over to Humble and grab 8 amazing games for just $14.99, including Total War, Warhammer 3, Another Crab's Treasure, No More Heroes 3, Etrian Odyssey HD, Pharaoh, A New Age, Synergy, Spin Hero, and Paleo Pines. And every purchase supports No Kid Hungry, which is a nonprofit that provides meals to students in need across the U.S. Build your library, make an impact, and help end childhood hunger. Head on over to humblebundle.com and start playing today. Nick, thank you so much for hanging out and talking about video games with me. It is always a pleasure and a delight.
Indeed, man. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to everybody who tuned in to watch us live or who's listening along at home. We do this show every week, and sometimes we get real silly and sometimes we get real serious, and we generally always have a pretty good time. So thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time. Beyond.